going to call this meeting to order with my apologies to the witnesses. We had a speech in the House that I just stayed in, and it ended right at 3:30, so I was a little bit later in coming for that speech. So thank you for joining us today. This is our third meeting on the study we are undertaking as a committee on settlement services in Canada. And we're early in the study, so we are still gathering information and data about the way settlement services work. And we're also, however, very keen on getting recommendations from you on how the government could improve its services to newcomers in the country. I think we have two by video conference and one by telephone conference. We understand that Mr. Cadigan had a flight canceled, so you are with us by telephone. Are you on the line now?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a mystery when you're on teleconference, so I wanted to double check. I think we're going to begin actually with you. Because you're on teleconference, we're going to begin with your statement, and then we will go to the other witnesses who are joining us by teleconference. So welcome to us. Are you in Kitchener today?
I'm actually in London.
In London?
It's challenging to get from Kitchener to Ottawa. I'm not sure how the members of Parliament actually do it. I have to chat with them someday. It's a real challenge. So.
We are glad you are wherever you are. And take it away. You have 7 minutes to offer a statement.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the time, and I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I had an intention to be. Reception House Waterloo Region has been around. This is our 32nd year. We were started by a group of Mennonite church folk, and for the first 20 or so years, they ran the organization as by the congregation and a few staff, and we have grown since then. And in 2017, we actually celebrated 30 years. As I reflected on what I was going to say, I first want to just kind of highlight what I see as sort of what I call good practice. So I will read from my statement. Since November 2015, when the region of Waterloo started to respond to the government's strategy in resettling 25,000 Syrian refugees, Reception House Waterloo Region has never been the same. In 1 year, we went from serving 250 to 300 refugees a year to over 1,000 plus that first year. The experience pushed us to innovate, collaborate, and discover efficiencies and best practices. What did we learn from that experience? We have learned to be creative. We have learned to be more flexible. We have learned to have enough funding to serve 1,000, but not enough funding to serve 300. But we have persevered. We have done what so many organizations in so many communities have done. We've responded in ways that focus us on assisting those most vulnerable, those who are not paired with a family or church group deeply invested in their success, government-assisted refugees. While our case managers are very deeply invested in the success of those we serve, the ratio of 1 to 100 versus 1 to 5 results in a very different outcome. We know the current government is in love with the privately sponsored refugee program as a way to shift the burden of refugee support to the community, but serving GARS also demands a community response, albeit a very different one. So one of the sort of key responses that we have used in the last couple of years is the Family Partnership Program, which is, I guess, a hybrid model of the privately sponsored refugee program, and it's designed to create social integration and language support for refugee families by pairing them with local volunteers from the Waterloo region. The participants in the program meet weekly over the course of a year and participate in various activities together, including sharing meals, practicing English, and exploring their communities together. The primary purpose of the program is to provide newcomers with a sense of belonging and help build a social support structure through community networks and English language practice. So recently we had the Family Partnership Program was recently evaluated by the Community Service Learning Project of Political Science at the University of Wilfrid Laurier, and here's a few findings from their evaluation. The Family Partnership Program offers a valuable life experience to government-assisted refugees, including networking, employment, and building mutually supportive relationships. It provides provides newcomers with opportunities to become more familiar with and comfortable in their communities, thereby helping to foster a sense of belonging. The program provides benefits to the Waterloo Region community as a whole by helping to counter xenophobia, strengthen community and social cohesion, and foster relationships between newcomers and local residents who may not have otherwise meet. So we have, just want to say I thank IRCC, and we are really pleased to see that they're responding to discussions and recommendations from service delivery partners. We've been at the front lines of this work for over 30 years. Listening to our experience will help the government make the most positive impact on the people we serve. We applaud our modernization of the systems. It is certainly a step in the right direction, and we look forward to the upcoming RFP for service for the next 5 years. As a new member of the National RAP Working Group, I'm excited about the stories and opportunities we can share with all those involved in enabling newcomers to discover their potential in Canada. So I have 4 recommendations. Continue to find ways to engage those organizations that are delivering services to GARs and to recognize that there are systems that work well, and supporting and promoting both systems are critical, especially as it relates to broadening the understanding of the public. Recognize and establish initiatives and systems that better address systemic racism and provide support that allows organizations like ours to do more in this manner. Continue to support creativity in the delivery of service to GARs, and continue to support initiatives like the SDI, Service Delivery Improvement Projects that IRCC has recently started. Many GARs are arriving with health, mental health, and physical limitations. IRCC must review the needs of these people and look to how we can better respond as they arrive. For example, our site is not accessible. This severely inhibits our ability to serve newcomers with mobility issues. And to allocate funding for initial mental health assessments and supports for clients who suffer from severe trauma, it might be a first step in dealing with this very serious issue. We've seen an increase of very serious and chronic health issues that people possess, and we're trying to respond in ways that make sense, but our community is a small one. The health system isn't always ready and willing to be flexible, and we want to see ways in which IRCC can have a broader impact on the provinces to do more with those people who are coming to our region. So I think that's a minute.
Thank you very much. Just stay tuned. You'll have some questions in a few moments. Let's go to Manitoba next, to the Westman Immigrant Services. And who is going to be speaking from the two of you?
I'm going to go to Angela Mowbray. I'm the acting manager of language programs. Our executive director is away on holiday somewhere warm this week, so Joy and I are going to cover for her. So we're going to give her introductory remarks, and I'm going to talk about language programs, and then Joy will talk about the settlement programs and gives her Lois's concluding remarks. Westman Immigrant Services envisions a community where diversity is valued and newcomers are accepted and supported in meeting their full potential. One of the greatest advantages we have as an organization is that we offer an array of services to our clients all in one building. Clients are not required to travel to different locations for different settlement services or language classes at stage 1. We're governed by a volunteer board of directors, and WIS employs over 40 people, more than 55% of whom are newcomers themselves. We retain the service of more than 90 professional language interpreters and assistants, and we're supported by over 100 community volunteers. I'm going to give you some statistics from the 17-18 fiscal year. During that year, we served over 4,000 clients through our settlement program. We provided 2,315 language interpreters covering 23 different languages. We assisted 368 clients through employment facilitation, and we provided child minding services for close to 300 clients. We resettled 45 government-assisted refugees, or GARs, and 50 will be supported in the 2018-2019 fiscal year. We delivered family and youth programs, providing support for newcomer families in a variety of ways. We were supported by 4,993 volunteer hours, so we're fully aware of how important our volunteers are to our programs. We maintained 20 classes for levels 1 to 4 throughout the school year, which is September to June, and we registered about 350 students. We conducted 496 language assessments using the Canadian Language Benchmarks Placement Test and also the CLB LPT, which is the literacy test. I'm going to tell you a story about one of our students to highlight some of the strengths and challenges of our language programs. I'm going to call her Layla for the purposes of this presentation. Layla is a GAR, and in August of 2016, she came to me for her CLBPT. In her country of origin, she never went to school. As the eldest daughter, she had to stay home to help her mother. Layla told me every day that her father would say to her, "I'm so sorry, Layla, no school for you today." After her test, Layla was so excited to tell me, "But now I can go to school." Unfortunately, she'd run up against two of our biggest challenges in providing English classes: childcare needs and literacy needs. In 2016, Layla had a 3-month-old son who was not eligible for childcare. Luckily, we do have a family literacy program that Layla was able to attend with her son that does have an English component, but it is not run with the same expectations as their other classes. Also, Layla is not literate in her first language, and literacy learners usually take a much longer time to progress. Layla finally began regular English classes in September of 2018. While her listening and speaking have improved over the last 2 years, her reading and writing have not, and she's currently 2 years behind where she could have been in attaining English language proficiency. Layla is an excellent example of how it would be of great advantage to our program if there were more childcare spots and focused training and resource development for teachers of literacy learners, as students like Layla end up in almost every class. So that's Layla's story, and at the other end of the spectrum, I'm going to talk about students that have very high levels of English in comparison. In order to successfully settle in Canada, to attain advanced education and better employment opportunities, it's critical to have high levels of one of our official languages. The hospital in Brandon, for example, requires a completed level 6 to qualify to work as a cleaner. Some of our retail businesses ask applicants to be at least a level 7. At present, there are no evening or weekend classes for stage 2, that's levels 5 to 8, students to attend in Brandon, and there can be long waiting lists for morning and afternoon classes. Providing English classes to newcomers is one of the key factors in helping them to settle successfully in their new community. We look forward to continuing to provide that service, working to ameliorate the challenges and build on our strengths.
To continue, talking about a new initiative this year, we have the Settlement Workers in School, or SWIS, which is a partnership initiative with the Brandon School Division that sees support staff providing guidance and assistance to students and their families as they settle into their new school. For settlement program considerations, we see the need for support services. It is important to eliminate barriers for clients when accessing programs. We provide various support services, including childcare, transportation, interpretation, and crisis counseling, but we have limited capacity at present. For childcare, we provide an on-site childcare for newcomer children 19 months and older, which currently has a capacity of 10 children. There is always a wait list for this program. Current challenges include space to expand and lack of infant care. Layla, for example, could have accessed English classes sooner if we had a program for infants. As for transportation, in Brandon, public transportation is not prolific, and for newcomers, our harsh weather conditions are a challenge in leaving their homes, especially for newcomers that have young children. Providing them with access to free transportation has proven to increase enrollment and attendance in programs. Unfortunately, the demand far exceeds the funding that we have available. Another support services is interpretation. We know that many of our newcomers arrive with low levels of English, which make it a challenge for them to attend appointments and participate in programs. That is why language and cultural supports are offered in our agency. We are unique in having paid certified interpreters available within our organization and the community. However, the importance of interpreters is not always recognized outside of WIS. For example, we see clients go to their family doctors and use children to interpret important medical information. Next support service is crisis counseling. It is inevitable that all newcomers experience culture shock which can lead to mental health issues. Some of our newcomer clients have also experienced significant trauma. Having our facilitators provide culturally sensitive support counseling delivered in their home languages has proven to be helpful. Increased access to professional development for our staff and a greater availability of culturally sensitive, trauma-informed practice with language support within the community would help to address the specific mental health needs of newcomers. We also see some ineligible clients. We are mandated to only provide services to clients with permanent resident status. There are non-permanent resident newcomers who seek help from our agency for language classes and settlement programs. Unfortunately, we have to deny them services as they are ineligible. We see the need and the value in providing services to these clients as well as to help them settle successfully in Canada. In conclusion, Westman Immigrant Services, together with settlement agencies across the country, works tirelessly to support refugees and newcomers as they settle in their new home and provide supportive connections within their new community. In response to the 2019 call for proposals, WIS is proactively working to forge partnerships with settlement and language offices throughout the region to provide a regional response in delivering flexible, responsive settlement services with an enhanced focus on employment. Limited support from provincial government funders and a disconnect between the provincial and federal government with regards to supporting newcomers has proven difficult for the entire sector in Manitoba. We continue to explore and build community partnerships that will enhance our services and provide meaningful, proactive support to refugees and newcomers in Western Manitoba.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll now go to our witnesses from the Affiliation of Multicultural Societies and Service Agencies of BC, and who's going to begin with you?
Good afternoon. I'm Katie Rosenberger. I'm the Executive Director of AMSA, and I'm with my colleague Sabrina Dimitra, who is our Manager of Settlement and Integration Programs.
Very good.
I'm going to begin, and then Sabrina will take over, and we'll kind of go back and forth.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the Affiliation of Multicultural Societies and Service Agencies of British Columbia, or AMSA, as we call ourselves, is the provincial umbrella association for agencies serving newcomers. Our organization strengthens its 70 member agencies, as well as hundreds of community stakeholders, to serve newcomers and build culturally sensitive communities with the knowledge, resources, and support they need to fulfill their mandates. AMSA provides support to a broad range of settlement service providers and other stakeholders in BC. So each province has an umbrella association, with the 4 Atlantic provinces being represented by one umbrella. Not all IRCC-funded organizations are AMSA members, and conversely, not all AMSA members are IRCC-funded, as we were established in 1977 and have been working in the field of multiculturalism and diversity for over 40 years. AMSA works with our members to provide a common voice to funders, policymakers, community members, and external stakeholders on issues such as immigration, resettlement, settlement, integration, and diversity. AMSA works with our colleagues across the country through representation on the National Settlement Council. As the umbrella organization for BC, AMSA is uniquely positioned to build the needed partnerships between the settlement sector and all 4 levels of government: municipal, provincial, federal, and Indigenous, and the private sector. AMSA's funding comes through IRCC, through BC settlement programming, as well as IRCC through a national contribution agreement. We are also funded by the province of British Columbia to provide sector support to organizations that work with non-IRCC eligible clients, and have project funding from different organizations like Canadian Heritage, Western University, and Dalhousie University, to name a few. At this time, we are also in negotiations with ESDC for a contract to enhance sector knowledge and information sharing for those organizations that serve temporary foreign workers.
So in BC, 28.3% of residents are immigrants, which is the second highest proportion of immigrants in Canada. In addition to having a high newcomer population, BC is also home to a large population of second-generation immigrants. And as well, BC also has a high population with a significant linguistic diversity. Approximately 1 in 3 BC residents has a mother tongue other than English or French, which exceeds the national average. And between 2006 and 2011, 78% of newcomers to Canada self-identified as belonging to a visible minority. Immigration is an issue that has tremendous impact in our province and is noticeable in BC's provincial economic growth, public institutions, and in the growth of rural and urban centres. The opportunities that immigration provides to this province necessitate a clear strategic vision for immigration, social inclusion, and economic growth. Leadership and active engagement with the settlement sector is needed to harness the positive impact that immigration has on this province.
So between 1998 and 2014, the government of BC oversaw the design and delivery of newcomer settlement and integration programming, with federal funding being transferred from Citizenship and Immigration Canada. Repatriation happened for BC in 2014, happened for Manitoba in 2013. So I know our colleagues from Manitoba are familiar with this process. In April 2014, the federal government repatriated this responsibility, leaving a vacuum in BC as federal and provincial governments began to grapple over which jurisdiction is responsible for meeting certain settlement needs, such as mental health counseling, foreign credential recognition, and housing supports, often leaving newcomers left in the middle without the support that they need. In Canada's unique model of newcomer settlement, community-based settlement organizations have developed the expertise and the capacity to serve newcomers over time. Settlement organizations and AMSA believe that newcomers are best supported to become successful members of our communities through a robust system of settlement and resettlement supports. Settlement service provider organizations in BC have seen federal funding cuts for each of the previous 2 years, while provincial contributions have seen a slight rise only in this past year. As with many other social services sectors, the settlement sector has seen an increase in staff turnover and staff burnout as funding challenges and the increasing stress of working with highly vulnerable groups is taking its toll. AMSA believes that our current government, both federal and provincial, understand these challenges and are working with the sector as well as their government counterparts to identify ways to address these issues.
AMSA works closely with settlement providing organizations to provide capacity building opportunities by delivering, for example, webinars, e-learning modules, and creating Migration Matters information sheets. As well, AMSA provides the settlement sector in BC with convening opportunities so that best practices can be shared, but also challenges and gaps in service delivery can be discussed. And some of the gaps and challenges that AMSA has heard from our member organizations are that Canada's immigration model is built on the concept of a two-way street of integration. In order for newcomers to successfully settle and integrate in BC, it is imperative that initiatives promoting multiculturalism and anti-racism are properly resourced. In recent months, members' agencies have reported increased discriminatory incidents and are concerned about the impact on BC communities. Many newcomers to BC are not eligible for federally funded settlement supports, including refugee claimants, international students, naturalized citizens, temporary foreign workers, and other newcomers who are not permanent residents of Canada. AMSA believes that eligibility for settlement support should be determined by need rather than immigration status. AMSA and the BC settlement sector are appreciative of how BC funding has been used to enable some or all of these groups to access settlement supports this way, but current levels of investment are unfortunately totally inadequate for the demand. As an increasing number of temporary residents transition to permanent residency, it is more important than ever that these clients have access to settlement supports to enable a smooth transition. In a just and equitable society, everyone should have access to basic supports and protections. AMSA has heard from member organizations that the lack of access to language learning opportunities is a particular challenge for migrant workers. Refugee claimant serving sector is also being squeezed as demand for services increase. The large number of refugees recently resettled to BC struggled to access appropriate mental health and trauma services, and low-income newcomers from all immigration stream find it difficult to access acceptable housing, one of the most basic aspects of settlement.
As the settlement sector prepares to write a call for proposal for up to 5 years of funding, AMSA is working closely with our provincial counterparts to seek consistency in funding for service delivery across the country, while also recognizing the unique jurisdictions that we all live in. Engagement with communities is absolutely essential, as it is the community where the newcomer settles, and connections developed through robust settlement organizations, local immigration partnerships, settlement workers in schools, and our community partners all form the foundation for the successful integration of newcomers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to begin questioning now. We may get interrupted with bells at some point for a vote. Luckily, we're in West Block, so we may be able to go a little bit longer than half an hour for bells. So we'll see how well we can do. Monsieur Rayoub, on va commencer avec Monsieur Rayoub de Québec.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank all of the witnesses for having been here today. It's always interesting to recognize the work that you're doing to welcome new immigrants to this country, people who are swelling the ranks of our country and who will contribute to the culture and the economy of Canada. I'd like to know from AMSA and from Manitoba, and even also from Mr. Cadogan, how new immigrants find out about your services. How are they aware? Is it only when they land that someone takes them in hand and speaks to them about it, or do they receive information before they even get here? In terms of through the embassies or through immigration programs, are your services known? When people decide to go to British Columbia or elsewhere in Canada. So whoever would like to answer first, go ahead.
I'm first serve.
Reverse order. Let's start with BC and then Manitoba, then Ontario.
Excellent. So really, how newcomers find out about services depends on the pathway in which they come to Canada. So those that come through as a GAR, a government-assisted refugee, they find out about services pre-arrival through, the International Organization on Migration. We also have a robust pre-arrival program now. There was a pre-arrival program for settlement services that recently just finished negotiating their contribution agreements. And it is, after years of pre-arrival, a really intensive evaluation. And now these new organizations that are being funded, there are 16 organizations that are doing pre-arrival in many different ways. They're doing pre-arrival in core countries. So there's China, the Philippines, India, and Morocco. And then there is online pre-arrival services being delivered. And then there's also pre-arrival services that are targeting specific occupations. So I know the BC Construction Association is targeting individuals to come in and work in the construction industry. Mm-hmm. There's one for technological supports. There's one that's focusing on nursing. So there is a lot of work being done pre-arrival, and the department has put a great focus on that. And that's something that we're really looking forward to seeing how that develops. My understanding
I just want to interrupt you just a second, because I just want to leave some room for the others to answer also to that question. I've got only 7 minutes, so we need to be fast.
Yes, we actually have the same answer as theirs. We make use of the pre-arrival programs, and also most of the time for the economic migrants, they're the point of entry. That's where they would hear about our services. And same with GARs, it's it's prior to them coming here, they already know about us.
OK. Est-ce qu'il y a des... Êtes-vous au courant s'il y a du magasinage? Est-ce que les gens choisissent à l'avance?
Do you know whether people choose in advance and say, for example, I want to go to BC where I'll have perhaps such and such an advantage, or I'd like to go to Manitoba because that'll give me a different benefit, such as family reunification or an economic issue? So is there that kind of thing that happens?
The type of newcomer that's going to be arriving in Canada. Sometimes people come because they have family members already here, and it is a family reunification process. Sometimes they're told this is where there's room for you to be. So if they're GAR or coming through a pre-arrival process like that. Sometimes they choose because of economic reasons. They know that there are jobs that they could possibly do once they get here. And I'm guessing that in most smaller communities anyway, it's very well known, all the different organizations that exist, and often word of mouth is very helpful in letting people know that we exist and the types of programs that we have. And I'm sure most programs across Canada actively seek out immigrant groups and newcomer groups as well to talk about the services that we can offer.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we have a chance for Mr. Cadigan to get in on that first, because
we don't see
sometimes we forget the person on the telephone.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I think my comments are very much similar to Kitchener-Waterloo is a high-tech community, and so in terms of universities and the tech community, they have made a lot of effort to attract immigrants and students to the community. In terms of government-assisted refugees, folks, as was mentioned, are most of the people that we see have come from refugee camps, and they come via Pearson, and they take a shuttle to Kitchener and land at our place. And sometimes people choose the community, as was said, because they're family or friends, or they heard about it, but a lot of people don't know anything about the community, and so a lot of people that come are just getting to try to understand and what Canada is like. People don't know very much about Canada, so.
OK. Merci. Il me reste à peine une...
Thank you very much. I have just about a minute left. During the integration process, once English or French has been well learned, do employers come seeking out these new arrivals to make up for some shortcomings they might have in different areas in Canada, whether it's in Ontario or elsewhere? I have 30 seconds left.
In the Waterloo region, we have manufacturing is in a very high need, and so a lot of, in terms of employment, if people have the language skills, there are many jobs for people to get connected to. So we work a lot with employers to connect people to jobs in the community. Manufacturing is in dire straits in KW.
Thank you. Luckily, Brandon and Kitchener and Vancouver all have very good MPs who happen to be sitting at the table. So I'm sure that they are very helpful for your organizations. A member for Brandon.
Thank you very much for that promotion, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chair, I should say. Hi to all of you as witnesses, and thanks for your presentations today, particularly to Angela and Joy. It's a pleasure to have you here as well and to hear your concerns. And I know each of your organizations has, federal government contact, particularly through the funding as well as other resources that can be used as well. So start off with you, Angela, and Joy, whoever wants to answer. Do you think there's enough flexibility in that agreement from the financing and resources? And if you think there could be some improvement in that, what suggestions do you think that you would put forward?
Hi, Mr. McGuire. I'll talk a little bit about the language part of it. And there's understanding that currently in the agreement, we know that there are high targets for enrollment and attendance, and that's often really difficult for our clients. Most of our clients have at least one job, some of them two. Most of them have children to care for. So the regular attendance targets that we know are in place are often difficult to meet, and I do know that we feel pressure about that. And it's a different type of relationship in that unless we talk to each other about it, we don't have, I think, guidance or support in how we could better serve those people. So we often will seek out other organizations doing similar work that we do to ask the kinds of things they're doing. So it's not really the funding that's the issue, but maybe there is some flexibility issues for us in kind of communicating what our needs are and what our challenges are. And even though they're understood, they're not necessarily taken into account when it comes to funding our programs.
So I could just, as in regards to employers then, would you welcome the possibility then where employers bringing individuals into Canada, for example, through temporary foreign worker programs, that sort of thing, should they be eligible for settlement services? Would the employer, it would make the employer financially responsible for that training? Would that help you as well?
If they are to be eligible to settlement services, and that would really contribute to the economic growth of our country.
Mm-hmm.
And make it much more easy to for you then to be able to make more accessibility to others for the training, and particularly in the language levels that you were talking about.
Oh, of course, definitely.
Okay. Smaller communities as well. You've mentioned the transportation within the city and within the region, but is it an impedance to the training that's required in the smaller communities around? I know many of the immigrants that have come into some of the smaller communities in a region as well, and I'm assuming that this is the same in Kitchener and other areas. What could be done to help that? Is it a major impedance, or could we be able to use the internet and phone services in a much more appropriate manner?
Well, especially for Brandon, where buses run 30 minutes to an hour, it's not ideal for clients to use public transportation. Once they miss the bus, they have to stand there for another 30 minutes or an hour with this cold weather. If you're a newcomer, you don't have any idea of how cold it is when it's minus 40, and there's health and safety risk there. As for the use of technology, that is an excellent way of, another way of providing services to newcomers, but then not all of our newcomers have the capacity to use that. Like as mentioned by Angela, there are some of our, especially our refugees, we have refugees who have low literacy levels, and they don't even know what a keyboard is or what are even the characters in the computer, they won't recognize those. So it's not really, it won't help that much. The human one-on-one, face-to-face interaction is still the best way to help our newcomers.
Okay, and can I just get a response then as well from you, Sabrina, or Katie as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Online technology is great. We're working with organizations who've been funded through SDI funding to develop apps. There's online English language programming, but the face-to-face, not just for clients to have face-to-face with the settlement organization, but for us as the umbrella organization, it's critical that we have face-to-face opportunities with our membership. So, those that are providing the services, they need to be able to come together. They need to be able to talk about what's going on in their organization, share best practices, make those connections so that when it comes time to engage in partnerships, those relationships are already developed. So I think at every level, we can use technology to supplement, but we cannot use technology to replace.
And when using technology to supplement, it's also important to think about the community and the infrastructure. So many settlement organizations who want, in smaller centers, who want to support newcomers using technology, they don't have the infrastructure themselves, or they don't have the knowledge of how to use it themselves. So if they're not understanding utilizing technology, it's challenging for them to explain that to the newcomer within their community and to pass that on as well.
Thank you. I just wanted a final question is back to Angela or anyone else that wants to answer here. In regards to, about the smaller communities, I know that you're helping through Westman Immigrant Services with some of those as well, and training in relation to the last question that I asked. But can you provide us with some information as regards to what would be helpful in retention rates in smaller communities when people do come in, to be able to have them settled? Many will come and settle in the smaller communities once they get trained or jobs they leave. Do you have any suggestions as to how we could retain them in some of those smaller communities?
I think there's a few things. One is definitely employment opportunities for people. People often have high expectations when they come that maybe they're going to work in the field either that they worked in before they came or the field that they'd like to work in, and that's going to happen immediately, and it doesn't. So that can be really difficult for people, and just having employment opportunities for people within smaller communities is a really critical piece of their settling in Canada. And I think the other really important thing is really the connections you make in a community. And so if you have children, the connection you make with the school and the teachers and the parent-teacher council, things like that. And I also think a lot of it is about the education of the people that grew up in Canada and how to interact with newcomers in a way that they're comfortable and feel like they're a part of things. I do know in some of the smaller communities around Brandon, they've had trouble, for instance, having newcomers on boards and things like that. And just a simple thing like giving people notes beforehand that they could read over and feel like they already know what's going to be talked about would be really helpful.
I'm afraid I need to end you there. Very good. Thank you very much. Ms. Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all our witnesses. I want to first touch on the language training issue. I believe it was Joy who mentioned that, for example, the interpretation or translation services provided are very challenged, whereby you have children providing translation for their parents in medical appointments and so on. This was an issue that was brought up actually at our committee meeting with officials who actually responded to say that the government fund NGOs to provide that service, so we don't have to worry about it. So I quite worry about it, and then you touched on this, so I wonder whether or not you can expand on that, and what is your specific recommendation to government to address this very important issue?
Yes, we are given some funding for interpretation, to provide interpretation for us to provide services. So the funding is for the settlement agency, but it is not. But if they are to access services outside of our agency, it is beyond what we have or what is available for funding. So, for example, in our local hospital, I know that they would provide interpretation for free for our clients, for newcomer clients. But then, if they go to a private clinic, for instance, their family doctor, it is the choice of the doctor if they would provide for that language support or not. And well, as for recommendations, if we want, this has to do also with the retention that we're talking about earlier. If we want to retain people in our communities, we would like them to feel that they are part of our community and they can actually access services. And one of the barrier is language. So different levels. I don't know who is responsible for providing what, but that is a need. And it's not just in the medical field, even in court system, and banks and all agencies that they would access. Language support is important.
Just on that question, the government provides funding to you as an NGO. Is it sufficient to do the work that you do?
It is sufficient to do the work that we do. So we use interpretation in our office when we are providing one-on-one settlement appointments, and when we have programs like family programs, youth programs, we use the funding that we get from the government to deliver those programs.
Do you accompany family members to go see the physician? For example, if they came and requested and say, I need someone to interpret for me at this medical appointment, do you accompany them?
No, unfortunately, we're not.
Thank you.
Our funding
Yes.
doesn't allow us.
So that's exactly the point. So to suggest somehow that that service is provided for by the NGO is false, because at those medical appointments, people, as an organization, you don't have that capacity to send a translator or an interpreter with the family for that appointment.
That is correct.
Thank you. I'm going to go to AMSA on the same question, if I may, please. And then from your, as an umbrella agency, first off, thank you for your work. And with all the agencies to which are members of AMSA, I'm sure that this is an issue that's popped up because I've heard it numerous times. So I wonder whether or not you can also address this issue and provide recommendations.
Absolutely. Ms. Kwan, and thank you for your continued support of AMSA and the work that we do. This is definitely Sabrina's area of expertise, so I will defer to her on this one.
But yes, the lack of interpretation, particularly within medical appointments, is a challenge for settlement organizations, particularly in rural and smaller centers. It's what we've heard from our members is that for them to even have the staff who are able to provide interpretation support, that is often non-existent, who have staff who have the same language knowledge. And it's a huge barrier that settlement organizations are facing. And clients are not understanding the medical appointments. They're not, being able to take part and fully receive the support that they need. But it also changes the family dynamic, where the child is all of a sudden put in a place of power where they have to support and provide information to their parent. And it's often information that as a child they shouldn't be hearing. So one of the recommendations that AMSA members have suggested is that there is sufficient funding for accompaniment to medical appointments, or that there's a mechanism in place that guarantees that doctors and physicians' offices, also outside of the hospital, have access to free interpretation support, and that is a requirement. That is not an option for the doctor, but it's a requirement that the doctor utilizes that, particularly when English is not the first language of the client or when the client requests that.
I just want to touch on hospitals as well. I mean, I actually just last week I had to take my dad to a hospital appointment because there's no interpretation or translation available. And so, and the limited opportunities to which even hospitals provide for that is very, very limited. I just wonder if you can expand on that.
So in BC, through the provincial language support, there is some interpretation in hospitals. However, it is up to the discretion of the doctor if they would like to utilize that. And it's often something that is overlooked because there's not enough time, or we don't know how to access it, or it's a bother. And so it's something that it's often overlooked and be like, oh, yes, let's utilize the child who is here or the person who's accompanying that individual instead of respecting their wishes and their privacy and utilizing that independent interpreter.
Thank you. I'm almost out of time. So very quickly, you touch on the issue around supporting people without status, so irregular asylum seekers and so on, to which British Columbia has been impacted. And I think we are actually, in terms of numbers, ahead of Manitoba. But yet the federal government has announced a $50 million injection into supporting asylum seekers. BC doesn't get any. What are your thoughts on that, and what's your recommendation?
Our thoughts on that is we don't understand. We are unclear as to how BC was left out of that decision. I know that later on today you will be hearing from some representatives from British Columbia who work with refugee claimants, and you will understand that we are in a pretty serious position here in British Columbia. I don't know if it's because there has been a lack of advocacy on the part of our provincial or municipal representatives. It is definitely not for a lack of trying from the sector, and two of the people you will hear from later on are a part of a multi-agency partnership that focuses solely on the betterment and supports for refugee claimants. So we have mobilized everything that we can here in the province off the side of our desks to do the best we can for this extremely underserved population.
Thank you. We're going to go to Mr. Whalen for just a few minutes.
Well, I guess I'll just stay with BC for a second. If you could very quickly provide a recommendation on how to best address the issue of settlement support for asylum seekers.
So, providing financial support to organizations that currently provide support to refugee claimants. So through the multi-agency partnership, there are different organizations. However, they do not have sufficient funding to adequately support refugee claimants with the numbers that are being received in BC. And the number one key issue is housing support.
Thank you very much. That's a really great, succinct recommendation. If I could just go to Manitoba group for a second there, I guess it's Angela. In Atlantic Canada, we have an Atlantic immigration pilot in which companies themselves have been tasked with determining their own labor market needs, but they need to provide a settlement services plan in conjunction with the Settlement Services Agency to help the new economic migrants settle and their families integrate. The minister has recently announced a northern and rural immigration pilot project in a similar vein, and I'm wondering if they've reached out to your organization or if any prospective employers have reached out to your organization, and what would such a program, what do you envision such a privately funded program would look like in your neck of the woods?
Thus far, nobody's actually reached out to our organization. I'm not sure if we're not rural enough, maybe, to be part of this pilot project. But I have spoken to a couple of different people that have newcomers coming outside of Brandon, and they have been approached about it. For us, I mean, any partnerships we have with employers are only going to benefit our organization and newcomers in the community, I think. That pilot project to try to encourage people to settle in more rural areas is always something that we look forward to and that we want to help support.
Thank you very much. And I'm just going to share the last minute of my time with Mr. Tabera, who wants to ask a question on the line there to the person from Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
very briefly.
Yes, my question is to Mr. Carl Cardigan. You mentioned that you were working with 100 refugees per year, and it increased to 500. Am I correct?
Well, we were working with typically 250 to 300, and it increased to about 1,000. Now we're down to about 400 a year. And I wanted to comment on some of the things that happened, but I guess I was muted. Yes, we are we are the hub for the settlement of GARs in the region, and I think all of the issues that were mentioned by others, the medical, the issues of hospital and interpretation, are all issues that we deal with. They're issues that don't seem to be recognized by the federal government. I know that hospitals is a provincial issue, and I know that hospitals have budgets for interpretation, but they don't use them. And so we spend probably 70% of our time dealing with medical issues in our community, trying to help people connect to services in the community. And we have very little resources for that, and it's not the work isn't recognized. And so I think as the government think about what they can do to support refugees, infusion of funds to support connection to services, particularly in Kitchener-Waterloo, primary care physicians. We probably have about 90 families right now without a primary care physician. So trying to connect people to doctors is a big part of the work that we do, and it's not recognized as an integral part of the overall settlement process. In terms of the employers, I think we are trying to work with employers to get people connected better to the employment sector. We are working with 2 employers in KW right now where we provide language training because there are waiting lists in LINC and ESL classes in our region. So we are working with employers who hire people to provide language training on the work site. And so people are working at the same time they're learning English. And we think that more flexibility in delivery of language services is needed in our community. And
I'm afraid I need to, thank you very much. I need to cut you off there. And I'm going to need to cut this panel off and move very quickly to our next panel, which I'm trying to get in before the anticipated vote. So thank you very much for joining us from BC and Manitoba and Ontario, and we'll say goodbye to you. I'm going to suspend very briefly. I ask people not to leave so that we can have our witnesses from British Columbia and from Toronto be connected. Thanks. We'll suspend for 1 minute.
Thanks.
Going to reconvene and try to get our witness testimony, and I'll just let the witnesses know that there's a good chance we're going to just hear your testimony and not have too many questions. We may get some questions depending on the will of the committee. So I'm going to begin with Mr. Sinclair from Toronto on the video conference from St. Stephen's House, and you have 7 minutes for an opening statement. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Bill Sinclair. I'm the Executive Director at St. Stephen's Community House in Toronto, Ontario. Thank you for the invitation to speak. St. Stephen's is a nonprofit charity and a community neighborhood center. We're one of the 500 community service providers funded by IRCC across Canada, but our mission is to serve everyone in our neighborhoods. We were founded in 1962 to serve our largely immigrant community called Kensington Market, and still today immigrants account for 60% of the residents in our core neighborhoods. We partner with IRCC to deliver language instructions for new Canadians, LINC, and we offer settlement counseling for newcomers with staff who speak English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, Farsi, and Russian. And we're also the lead organization for our local immigration partnership called LIPS for our region. And the partnership includes settlement services and mainstream services such as the school board, health services, legal services, employment services, and municipal services like libraries and the police and public health. Funding for IRCC accounts for about 10% of our organizational budget. And we're also a partner with the provincial government, municipal government, and charitable sponsors like United Way to create a service hub in our community. So we serve the whole community with a bundle of services for children, youth, adults, and senior citizens in our neighborhoods. We provide licensed childcare funded by the municipality, employment, skills training, and placement funded by the province, health and recreational services for youth and for senior citizens supported by the city and the province, and more. In each of these services, we consider the needs of the whole families, and newcomers to Canada participate alongside immigrants who have been in Canada for decades and with people who were born in Canada. So let me give you an example of integration of services. So one of our participants, who we'll call Connie, is a young woman living in downtown Toronto with her husband, who we'll call Andy, and their 3 children aged 4, 2, and 4 months old. So Connie first connected with us when she was pregnant with her first child 5 years ago, and she and her husband both migrated separately from China, and they met here in Canada. He was an immigrant, and she was an international student. They married. Later, her husband became a citizen and fortunately became a very successful chef in a high-end restaurant in Toronto. Connie and her husband have both attended LINC classes when they first arrived, and Connie continues now through the birth of her 3 children. We met Connie when she was pregnant at our IRCC-funded settlement worker who is physically located. They go to 5 different community health centers to support pregnant women in the perinatal programs that are offered. So Health Canada funds the food and transit and these group programs. The province funds the nurses, dietitians, and midwives for the program, and IRCC through us funds the settlement workers and the interpreters. So we see over 300 pregnant women a week at the 5 sites, and 900 women overall last year. As each child was born, Connie went back to LINC classes that had on-site childminding, but now all 3 of her children are in our fully licensed childcare spaces, alongside newcomer children and Canadian children of all incomes. Connie is eager to improve her English and to work, and she'll be accessing our provincially funded employment program when her children go into kindergarten. So we believe in integrated services where immigrants and Canadians receive services together wherever possible. And we believe in settlement and mainstream organizations working together for better settlement outcomes. I want to congratulate IRCC for maintaining this robust and responsive network of community organizations to welcome and support newcomers all over the country. I want to congratulate them on their efforts, especially in recent years, to modernize our relationship with better partnerships and better contribution agreements. And I would like to congratulate them particularly on these service delivery improvement projects, the SDIPs that you've heard from other people, that have really been a great source of innovation and really moving things forward with new approaches and working with vulnerable populations. I have 4 recommendations. One is that settlement services should be part of multi-service community hubs, and it would be helpful to serve newcomers over their whole life cycle. So it would help greatly if IRCC allowed their service providers to work with people before and after their permanent resident status. We should have blended services where temporary residents, refugee claimants, permanent residents, and citizens can receive services together. And this happens in our perinatal program that I just mentioned, and that helps all the pregnant moms, the fathers, and the children. Secondly, we know that this committee is seeking a way to measure settlement success, and I urge you to use the LIP network, the Local Immigration Partnerships. You fund 77 local immigration partnerships across the country to help communities define and measure success locally. LIPs work with mainstream organizations and settlement organizations, large organizations, small organizations, urban and rural neighborhoods, and there's no cookie cutter approach. They should set goals for what success looks like and measure the goals together, lip by lip. And I think it's a case of there is no one size fits all. Thirdly, Please continue these service development improvement projects with a strong focus on working with vulnerable newcomers, women, youth, and LGBTQ plus communities. It's an excellent innovation, and it's only just begun, and there'll be a lot of good things coming out of it. Fourth, our organization is committed to decent work and fighting the precarious nature of most nonprofit work. We believe that our government contracts should support equitable and living wages for our employees, sick time, health benefits, and retirement benefits. And the success we all want for newcomers is not going to be achieved by high turnover of staff and by labor shortages of workers to work with them. And then finally, the majority of immigrants and refugees in now and in the future are from racialized populations. And Canada must address systemic racism through strong anti-racism laws and policies, including employment equity, and that access to employment and professional accreditation will remain a challenge that we'll be talking about until we can counter systemic racism in the professions.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to go immediately to Mr. Gruneau from the Journey Home Community Association. And you've asked the Kimbrace to join you as a witness. And you have about 8 minutes for the two of you together.
Thank you so much. Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today and for the work you are doing on behalf of newcomers to our country. My colleague and I both work for refugee claimant serving organizations in Metro Vancouver. And the current study underway on settlement services across Canada is a very important activity, and we're grateful to have a chance to provide some input for you today. Just over a year ago, a study indicated that Vancouver was the least affordable city for housing in North America, making housing unbelievably difficult for the 2,300 asylum claimants who have been arriving in our city annually. Unlike for government or privately sponsored refugees, asylum claimants have no one to welcome them on arrival. As a signatory to the UN Refugee Convention, Canada is living into its international obligation, to provide protection and a refugee hearing, but also has an obligation to provide help for asylum claimants in their access to basic human needs upon arrival. For a combined 33 years, Journey Home Community and Kinbrace Community Society have been stepping into that gap by providing a wraparound plan for housing, support, and accompaniment for these new arrivals. We have learned some things in our work. First, living with and assisting refugee claimants all these years has helped us to understand the sector and develop some well-designed communities that have been effective in helping refugee claimants integrate well. Secondly, we've learned that asylum claimants arrive with incredible skills, education, professional and business backgrounds, and have a strong desire to move forward with their lives and make a difference in their community. Just the kind of new Canadians we hope for. With a little assistance up front, we can set them up for success and help them become strongly contributing members of our communities. Today, we come with some community-based solutions for how we can change the current reality into a cohesive plan for new arrivals. Our organizations are part of Vancouver's multi-agency partnership, which is a network of some 40 agencies with nonprofits, businesses, all levels of government, including IRCC, the Immigration and Refugee Board, and Canadian Border Services Agency. We meet monthly, and the focus of the network is exclusively refugee claimants. There is a strong spirit of collaboration and goodwill. Our vision as a partnership is that newly arriving asylum claimants would experience a cohesive approach for support along the whole housing continuum from arrival to something more permanent, and that no refugee claimant is without supported housing. Our immediate dream is that we develop a refugee claimant reception center, a landing place for new arrivals where they can receive housing, orientation, and support for the first few weeks of their journey, and then supported pathways out of the center into the wider community. Such a dream is garnering strong community interest and stakeholder support. It will take all levels of government and private funding, and we have begun to see such support coalesce in Vancouver. Allow me to read a short excerpt from a support letter of one stakeholder, BC Housing, British Columbia's Crown Corporation for Social Housing. This is from one of the Associate Vice Presidents of BC Housing, and I quote, "It was a pleasure meeting with you a number of weeks back to discuss Journey Home Community's desire to develop a reception center for refugee claimants and housing as part of this vision. We would very much like to commence exploring suitable housing options for these individuals, and to that end, we may be able to offer some program funding to achieve this."
Interrupt you for 1 minute. We have bells ringing. They're 30-minute bells, and I'm going to suggest, if we have unanimous consent, that we finish the witness testimony and that we do a quick 2 and 2 minute round of questioning that will still give us 15 minutes to vote. I was going to say, luckily we're in this building, but it's actually the foresight of the clerk. We're in this building because we expected votes today. So is that okay? We continue with the testimony and have a 2 minute round?
3 minute round? It's just upstairs.
It takes you 3 minutes to do a 2 minute round. Just I give you 2 minutes, you'll take 3. So I'm saying a 2 minute round, and we'll see how we're doing. Please continue, sir.
Thank you. Secondly, we would be requesting Journey Home Community to approach and garner partner assistance from municipalities, the federal government, and other sources to create as much equity as possible for this housing project. End of quote. Additional interested parties in such a concept include 3 churches with possible available land, private investors, and a large significant foundation. We have experienced an incredible spirit of cooperation and innovation from multiple stakeholders in Metro Vancouver as we have been pursuing this dream. A few weeks ago, Journey Home was able to assist an asylum claimant father who had arrived in Vancouver with 4 young children under the age of 4. He was wandering the streets of Vancouver on a winter night with 4 young children in tow, searching for help after he had run out of funds for hotel space. Our church partner volunteer, who had lost touch with this gentleman, had left her phone number with the hotel in case he called back. Fortunately, he did, and they were able to connect and bring him to the house for a safe night's rest, but not without considerable stress for the father. Or I think of the family we were notified of about 1.5 years ago. The family arrived with a father, pregnant mother, and 2 children. They were split up between 2 shelters, men's and women's, and not allowed to visit each other again in the shelters. We were able to provide a housing unit and actually reunite the family. These situations should not happen in Canada, and they don't have to. Providing some basic level of compassionate care for newly arriving asylum claimants is neither a partisan issue nor a political issue. It's a human and moral issue, and Canada can respond. We are encouraged with the announcement last week of federal funding becoming available for housing costs for refugee claimants. We recommend that the federal government join us in this opportunity to forge a new way for asylum claimant arrivals. We recommend that a new approach to include a reception center and to be jointly funded by government and private funding be implemented, and that the federal government support this plan as we prove its viability in the Vancouver setting. This kind of center is both transferable and scalable for other regions in Canada. Journey Home Community, in collaboration with the Multi-Agency Partnership, stands poised and ready to move forward in Metro Vancouver. Will you partner with us? As this approach to assisting newly arriving asylum claimants continues to gain momentum in Vancouver, we urge you to lend your approval as it comes across your pathway. Better still, would you look for ways to approve and support such a plan? And as we finish today, may I just say we would love to engage with any of you in a more personal level for your feedback and input. Lauren and I will be around tonight and all of tomorrow and would welcome the opportunity to connect. Thank you again so much for the opportunity today. And we're here, both of us, to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Mr. Belisky, do you have anything you'd like to add for a minute or two?
It's included in that.
It's included.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. I think we'll be able to do 3 if you actually take 3. Mr. Sarai.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Godot, it's great to see people like you who do great work. But I won't take too much time on that. I want to know the scenarios you gave. I presume they're not GARs or PSRs. They're not government sponsored or privately sponsored. These are people who may have landed here one way, shape, or form and then claimed asylum, that they don't have a welcome center, because I assume if you are a PSR, privately sponsored refugee, that your families would help you with all the issues in terms of housing and others. And if you're government sponsored, you should be given an agency to start work, which helps you with housing and whatnot. So can you just a quick answer on that? Or was
Yes, definitely. Both Lauren's and my organizations focus exclusively on newly arriving refugee claimants. Any GARs or PSRs that come to us, we refer on to other organizations who have funding to help them.
And how would these refugee claimants find you? How do they locate you? What's the most common way they find out about your services?
In Metro Vancouver, we have a very coordinated response that has been in place for the last 10 years, working with multiple organizations and creating a pathway of referral that gets refugee claimants into the right spaces at the right time. So this is already in place. We've had to do with the increased number of refugee claimants coming and the demand on small organizations, and we've had to kind of rework that pathway. But it's a process that we address every month through the multi-agency partnership.
And pardon my ignorance, in Surrey we have a thing called the Welcome Center, where the school board runs, gets federally funded, where new refugees and immigrants all come in there, and they kind of help you, assess you what grade children need to get into, and what assistance or programs they need, whether they need English as a second language. Does Vancouver have anything similar, where there's a kind of one central location where you come in and do that, a conduit, or do you facilitate those services?
There are no federal funded services available for refugee claimants across Canada. So any services for refugee claimants are hosted by organizations that are either privately funded or receive some funding from the province of BC. So I'm not entirely sure about the Welcome Centre in Surrey, but I know that there is Stream B funding from the province of BC that is at work in Surrey, available to refugee claimants.
And what's the highest, what's the most sought out service for your agency? Well, what do people seek the most when they come to you?
Definitely housing is the first and foremost. There's very little settlement that can be adequately done without having a place to live and to land. And so that's the first driving factor. And then our organizations, along with providing housing, and we operate refugee houses where folks come and stay for 3 or 4 months until we can help them with permanent housing. We provide a complete wraparound program with all the settlement help and the accompaniment and relational care that they're looking for as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McGuire for 3 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you to our witnesses. Lots of times we get spouses and refugees coming into Canada and they have difficulty, with recognition of their foreign credentials, and the qualifications can be obstacles for those coming in without having credentials, recognized prior to their arrival. So I just wondered what your organization's experience is with regards to that, to the recognition of foreign credentials and qualifications, and if you've found ways to assist your clients in having, the previous qualifications that they've got actually recognized in Canada as well. And can you share your experiences with us on that?
Sure. With our organizations and we're reasonably small organizations, and we have only private funding, so we don't have a lot of capacity to help in every area. So some of these areas, such as foreign credentialing, we would help them make the connection in the community. BCIT, local institution helps people with those kinds of credentials. What we do try to provide is some connection around employment, training programs as we're able. There's some skills that are really transferable. We had a family, he had IT skill, and it didn't take long, he was off and running. Others where the credentials are more professional take a much longer time. And so we try to make those community connections, and one of our basic services to the families that we accompany is to help them find those service connections in the community.
And so you've found that you're able to come up with solutions to that. How many would you be looking at in a regular period of a regular year? Say, how many would you be able to help in your organizations? How many?
I think just to put us on the spectrum of welcome and help, our organizations are postured right at the front end. We're dealing with housing and initial supports for refugee claimants. Refugee claimants go through a very long process through the determination process and then eventually getting permanent residence. And so there's many other issues that they're kind of dealing with at the front end. So our organization, while we are attentive to that stuff, we don't keep any statistics in terms of credentialing or anything like that. We refer them on to some of the larger organizations.
Just in terms of how many folks our organizations help, is that what you were, is the second part of what you were asking? Right. We probably work with, between our two organizations, maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 refugee claimants per year in being able to provide this complete wraparound service.
And are there any that you're turning away? I'm trying to get a handle on just exactly what type of staffing do you have and that sort of thing, and how much more would you be able to use in those areas?
Constantly turning people away.
Yeah.
With an arrival population of about 2,300 the last 2 years consistently in Vancouver, our organizations together, as I mentioned, maybe in the neighborhood of 150. So it's a small percentage. And as we're looking at rolling out this kind of approach and plan, and we believe that there's funding in place, as I've mentioned, that we would look to providing a reception center that could help the majority of newly arriving folks that come, and then help them onto pathways for the next steps of their permanent housing.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kwan.
Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses as well for the work that you do. You receive no government funding, yet you continue on. So you've come forward with a proposal, basically, that could be a template in some ways to move forward with a welcoming center to provide for housing, which is a major aspect of it. So in this proposal, I believe that your ask and you're inviting the federal government to be a partner with you, with the organizations on the ground, and with the provincial government. Is that correct?
That's correct, as well as with possibilities of private investors and a significant large foundation that has expressed some interest.
Thank you. And the federal government at the moment do not provide resources to provinces except for Quebec and Ontario, and some to Manitoba for asylum seekers. And so these are inland refugee asylum seekers. British Columbia, for some strange reason, in my view, did not receive any money, even though when the government announced that $50 million announcement for Ontario, Quebec, and Manitoba. So part of this initiative could also be funded from that $50 million in partnership with all the folks that you mentioned.
Absolutely. We would be happy for whichever pot of money is available and could help set up such a center and help us with then not just the center, but the beginning of a long-range plan. And we think we would need, we should have something in the neighborhood of 5 years to really prove this concept viable.
Mm-hmm. With respect to housing, I know that for British Columbia, organizations have been trying to do this off the side of their desk in trying to help and support these asylum seekers because there are no resources available pretty well anywhere. And so the service to which you provide is wraparound service. We've heard this and saw this in the news. For example, in Quebec and Ontario, the government is trying to put them in hotels and is an expensive venture, is one time only, and that resource does not come back to us. But with your proposal, then you're talking about building something that's permanent, that can be used over and over again without the cost of hotel. Can you expand on the value of that?
Yes, absolutely. And this is actually not just a new idea. Last May, we hosted a forum. It's the first time in Canada that happened around refugee claimant housing issues. An amazing group of people came together, from private investors to everybody, really trying to look at solutions for housing for this population. That then led to a report. I have it here. We can send it to anyone, on what are some key actions we can take. The province of BC stepped in at that point and said, we want to work with you on a plan that can help move us towards housing solutions for refugee claimants. And so that is in process right now. It wraps up at the end of March. And I think what we see is actually a community that's galvanized. It has all the right DNA, so to speak, to do this. We just need the investment of and the partnership of others to collaborate with us, so that refugee claimants get a welcome that is brings the best outcomes for them and brings the best outcomes for our region and for Canada.
Also efficient and cost effective as well. I got the signal to say I have no more time. And on that report, I wonder whether or not you could submit that report to the clerk's office so that it could be shared for all the committee members, because I think that would be valuable for all of us. So, and again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else to add?
I was just going to say we can submit maybe about 2 documents, the housing report and then our dream of the reception center, and showing the wraparound and the beginning stages of a more permanent plan for housing.
Thank you very much.
To all the witnesses. Mr. Sinclair, if I could just ask you too, if, we recognize that funding is related to immigrants and refugees that are sponsored, either government or private or blended. If you have any experience with asylum seekers coming to your doors and seeking help, and you're not either doing it and you're not supposed to, or not doing it because you can't in some ways, if you could provide that to the committee, I think that would also be of help to us.
Certainly. As I mentioned, we're with blended funding from the province, municipality, and IRCC, so we see everyone in our doors. The IRCC staff focus on the people who have permanent resident status.
I understand. So if you have anything, it would be helpful for the committee, because that's one of those areas that's emerging. Committee, thank you. We have 13 and a half minutes for you to find your way to the chamber from this room, which may be a challenge for some of us. The meeting's adjourned, and we will see you after the next constituency week.
Thank you.